Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you in this beautiful co-creation as we're co-creating our new earth together. I'm so excited because the energies are really supporting us right now to listen to the promptings of our heart, really what makes us shine, what lights you up, what you want to bring out to the world, how do you want to express yourself. That is what is on tap for us. But the key thing with this beautiful energy is that we have to choose it. So this is really, really important. It's important to, if you're finding yourself in a space of, things falling apart or things not working out, there's a bigger life plan for you that is more connected to your true north, to your heart's direction, and supporting you in creating your best life now. So these times can be intense, but they can also be very liberating and very exciting. And so uh, choose well. Choose to go for your true north. Choose to go in the direction of your higher power. That's the way to go. So today we have an incredible marathon of shows again. We've got 2 hours of stories of hope that are just going to inspire you and support you in amazing people that you're going to meet. And before we get started, before I introduce you to our first guest today, I have to tell you first about, well, first let me bring Jacob on, our producer. Hi, Jacob.
Hey there, Cornelia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing so well. As you know, I just got back from a nice week and a half vacation with my wife and her family, and just feeling really rested to get have some time away and disconnect. And I'm excited to be back.
It's so good to have you back. And it's also so nice that you took the time to disconnect and just play at the beach.
Absolutely.
Sounds like you got what you needed.
Definitely, for sure.
That's so cool. Well, Jacob, I wanted to tell you about this. I want to tell you, and of course, I want to tell the audience about this brand new experience that we in the KS Media Group are rolling out that is only available in our app, the KS Media Group app. So basically, what it is that it's called the Beloved 7 Day Experience, and it is an opportunity for the
Hey
people
everyone.
that want to connect with coaches, healers, small business consultants, practitioners from around the world. Pretty much it's going to be every single day. And all they have to do is go take a look at the schedule in the app. It's on the home page and download it at KS Media at your app store or at your Play Store. So this is an opportunity for those of us that just have a quick few short minutes. 10 minutes a day is really all it takes uh, for you to get the message and for you to have contact with the practitioner or with the coach. So what do you think about this experience, Jacob?
I think that's great. I mean, I've had the pleasure of working personally with a lot of the people that are on this app, which I think is just a great idea to kind of create this network of influencers and thought leaders around the world. And I think it's just great that you're creating something so accessible and easy. Like you said, you only need a few minutes at a time to connect with these people. And I think that that is just fantastic for everyone that can be part of it.
And do you know we have all the time zones? So because we have a community from around the world, so we've got the time zones from England, from the UK, we've got the Pacific time zone, all the American time zones, and we have practitioners from all over. And each person comes on and does a 10-minute segment. So it's kind of like having a coach or a mentor or a teacher or a person on demand, and you can just look at the schedule and go, oh, today I want to tap into my calmer self. Oh, today I want to go and I want to connect with Peggy and I want to get unstuck with this one thing, or I want to connect with Antonina and I want to evolve my business. So this is an opportunity for all of the people that feel called to connect with us in our community, which is only available in the app, and they're going to have to download it. So are you showing the app's photos?
Yes, I rolled through some of the app features that you've showcased, and yeah, we've had a chance to look at that.
Great. Well, thank you. We want you to download that app right now. Go to your Play Store, go to your App Store, download the app KS Media Group, create your free account, and go check out the first page and see what's on tap. It's kind of like a menu. So that's kind of how I'm describing it. So you've got 7 days a week. On Mondays, this is what's happening. On Tuesdays, this is what's happening. And everybody's got 10 minutes. And if you want to really connect with the people that are influencing you, that are supporting you, that's going to be the way to do it. So don't waste your time. Go to it right now and download that app. So I'm really excited about it, as you can tell. And this is also a brand new creation. So this is in this new moon energy, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right. Well, now let's go on with the show today. My first guest, she is in Vancouver, BC, close to me, because we're out here in close to Seattle. And she lives in Vancouver, BC, and she is a ballroom dancer among many other things. So let me introduce you to one is short for multi-dimensional transformational coach and oracle guide by her fierce guardian angel. She serves as a spiritual guide and tarot reader for her people.
Yeah.
She's a certified life coach, an NLP practitioner, and image consultant with over a decade of experience, and a highly skilled makeup artist and hairstylist who specializes in inner and outer beauty. Welcome to the show today, Juan.
Thank you so much for having me, Cornelia. It is an honor, and I'm so excited to be here today.
It's so great. I'm so glad that you said yes. So before we came on the show today, I was asking, what's happening in your life? What's going on? And you said
That I'm just keeping busy, enjoying my job as a ballroom dance instructor. It's something that I manifested recently, so I'm still riding the wave of excitement, and I think that's a wave that is going to be a lifelong thing because there's so much to learn in dance and in any form of art, really. And then I work on my coaching business as well, so it keeps me busy. I have fur babies, but it's a labor of love, and for me, I'm in alignment with my purpose here, which is to spread love and light and to really support humanity in raising our vibration as a whole. So thank you for facilitating this kind of space that hopefully can inspire hope for those who are listening. Yeah.
yes. I just want to say this is so awesome. A ballroom dance instructor. Is this a lifelong dream of yours?
It is, it's one of those dreams that I honestly never knew I could have because I'm not a classically trained dancer. I've been a freestyle dancer for most of my life. But I work with a company called Arthur Murray. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh,
them. Yeah, so it's over 100 years old, the company, and there's a very strategic and systematic way to train their instructors, and I feel because it's something that I'm passionate about, not just about the dancing, but the teaching aspect as well, and being able to impact people and hopefully have the honor of supporting them and learning to fall in love with movement and dance and really feeling whole in their human body. All of that really inspires me, and I'm learning really quickly. So it's been quite the journey, but it's been amazing. It really calls forth all of my talents and skills and passions, and I'm able to harness all of that amazing energy and share it with my students in the studio. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I think that is just fabulous. Moving the body and, in such an eloquent way, right?
Mhm.
Like ballroom dancing, and you really get to connect with your physical body. You get to move and you get to express yourself. And so, do you choreograph the dances, or do you follow the uh, instructions from the school?
So there is a curriculum that we go by for sure, which is what makes it easier for students to learn because they do learn from more than one teacher within the school. So that's really helpful. And when it comes to wedding routines, our the owner, which they're extremely talented. They've been in the industry for a very long time, so they're well versed in the art. They actually come up with the choreography, and then I just help students develop the skills around it.
That's so
Mhm.
great. So, have you been
Yeah.
dancing since you were young
Yes. Yep. Honestly, one of my most vivid memories as a child was when I was in Malaysia, which is where I was born. So I was conceived in Vietnam, and then our family escaped Vietnam after the war. And when we were in Malaysia, I was maybe a couple of years old, and I remember vividly. My mom is like, "How are you remembering that? You were so young." But I promise it's a memory that I hold dear to my heart. There was a thunderstorm, and I remember running outside and just dancing around like it's nobody's business, and just feeling the sense of freedom and youthfulness. And so even now I have an affinity for thunderstorms. So when it rains really hard in Vancouver, I'll actually run outside and just prance around like it's no one's business. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
um
That's so beautiful. That's
yeah,
so beautiful. It sounds like you're really living your dream, and
I
it sounds
am.
like you're really, inspiring people into beauty with beauty, like you said. So also, you're a very beautiful, and you're a makeup artist. And so this is also something that you're passionate about because again, it involves beauty, right?
Absolutely. And it's even deeper than that for me because my journey to get to where I am to finally, and not to say to finally, I mean, there have been amazing moments throughout my life, but it has been challenging.
Mm.
There's been a lot of traumas that I've had to work through, a lot of inner work that I've had to really commit to doing. And I'm so grateful that I have because I'm just at such a peaceful and loving place. I grew up, self-loathing. There was a time in my life where I despised looking in the mirror, where I didn't appreciate or love the person that I was seeing in the reflection, and self-love was just not existent in my life. So it's it's peaceful and it's a beautiful place to be, and it's a place that I want to inspire people to get to because I believe it's our birthright to have that feeling of unconditional self-love. And that's the only way we're going to be able to spread that kind of energy is to find that within ourselves first. And so when it comes to beauty, I really want to support um, men, women, girls, everyone to really accentuate their natural beauty and to really share the inner beauty. And it's important to also understand that um how we look like is interconnected and directly correlates to how we feel and how we arrive in the world and what we do. It's a self-image thing. So I bring that into my work. It's not just about a vanity thing. It's not just about, looking beautiful. It's about everything else that comes with it. Mhm.
Everything that you're saying about the dance, about the inner self love, about the image, about how you present, how you're connected to your inner and outer beauty. These are all so spot on. And this is exactly how we're healing the world by first doing it for ourselves, with ourselves, and then being that example for others to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you get into the coaching, the NLP, the fairies? How did that all come to be?
It was it was a natural progression, I feel, because I've always been a very introspective person, and I didn't grow up with, anyone to really look up to, and so anytime I had to consult anyone, it would be with myself or a higher a higher power, because I grew up, um I was born and raised as a Catholic. However, I'm not religious, I'm much more spiritual. So I've always had this connection with a higher power, and so um it allowed me a lot of insight, which I was able to use to support my friends. So my friends would always come to me for advice, and then I didn't even know coaching was a thing. Like for me, I would want to just help out of wanting to help without any expectations of it being able to support my living or anything. But one day, I was working as a bartender, and as a bartender, you end up being kind of a therapist of the neighborhood. Um, I had one of my regulars say to me, he's like, if I could afford you, I would hire you as a life coach. And that was the first time that profession was even introduced to me. And so it planted the seed. And a couple of years later, following my intuition and staying true to my path, I realized that coaching was something that I need to pursue, because it's happening naturally already in my life. And I tried going down the path of supporting and helping people for free, without using it as a business, and then working everything else. But I was finding myself to be depleted, and I didn't have the energy to do both. And so I realized quickly it wasn't sustainable. And if I'm meant to, support others, I need to find a way to make it so that it can support my livelihood as well. And so my journey of coaching began, and when I started looking into the industry, I realized that there were missing pieces, and what I really wanted to do was create a unique coaching program that helps people transform from the outside in, because we live in a day and age of instant gratification, and the deep inner work takes time, patience, and dedication. And when a person goes on a journey that can be difficult, um, it can be hard to stay motivated if they don't experience instant transformation. So I wanted to utilize my skills and passion in the beauty industry to help people get that instant gratification so that it can satisfy that need. And then with the newfound confidence from an outer beauty transformation, we could use that as a catalyst to dive deeper within, to do the spiritual work, to do the mindset work, and become heart centered. So
Did you develop that coaching program?
I have, with relentlessness and years.
Oh my
I'm so
God.
grateful to be at a place where I'm like, I have a system that works.
Ah,
Yes.
that's wonderful. So what tell us a little bit about that system. What does it how long is it? Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about it.
Okay, great. So it actually uses sacred geometry as the blueprint to break down the different areas of our life, and the process, and even, and I like to say co-creating, because it's not my intellectual property. It belongs to everyone. I just happen to be able to tap into the ancient wisdom and harness and develop it alongside source and my fierce guardian angel, because truly, after my and when I refer to my guardian angel, I refer to my younger brother who transitioned to heaven in 2018. It was devastating, and my world collapsed. But in that process, I was so much in I was so engulfed in the spiritual realm that it allowed me to elevate myself to higher levels of clarity and wisdom, which aligned me with this enlightenment of figuring out the process, because I had been on the journey of trying to figure it out for years. But basically, have you heard of the flower of life, Cornelia?
I was looking at your earrings
Yeah,
and I was going to ask you, are they the flower of life?
absolutely, they are.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, they are. Okay, great. So basically, I take the seed of life, also known as the germ of life, which has the six petals, right? And each petal represents um, an area of our life. So the first petal is spirit. The second petal, so I call this process the 6 petals of life. The first petal is spirit. The second petal is mind. The third petal is heart. The fourth petal is body. The fifth petal is environment, so our inner environment, our home and nature. And then the sixth petal is abundance and impact, and those come hand in hand. And so anything that's relevant in our life that we hold dear will fall under one of these petals. And through my process, and without getting into the rabbit hole because we can go on for quite a bit of time, I take my clients through a transformation where we take it one petal at a time, and one, because the word spirit can mean something different to you, me, Jacob, your audience, everyone. And so I take my clients through a process of figuring out what each petal means to them and what they value most within spirit, within mind, within heart, and so on and so forth. And then from there, I take them through a coaching process where we then implement and figure out ways to help them um, raise their level of consciousness around that particular petal. And then I also have a system where I take people through a process to shift their mindset if that's what they need to do using the 6 petals as well.
So
So
the
it's
sixth
very
pet,
strategic.
even though it's the flower of life,
Yes,
but it sounds like this is your own unique modality
yes,
that you are using to help people transform their lives.
absolutely.
That, yeah, you were going to say something else about it?
Yeah. So my goal with this is to help people um, redefine what the flower of life and what the seed of life means to them, because
Mhm.
you know it's been known throughout history, like some of the greatest minds understand and know that there is profound wisdom instilled within the flower of life. But aside from using as a meditation or coloring for the color therapy, there hasn't really been a way to take this beautiful sacred geometrical shape and use it as a tool to actually transform our life. So in my work as well, I help my clients really anchor different meanings with into the flower of life so that it becomes a reminder, so that it becomes a tool that they use on a day-to-day basis to help them transform their life. So it's quite the process. And I use NLP in that. I use my makeup, everything. So it truly is a multi-dimensional transformation.
So I just love all of everything that you're saying. And I really want to acknowledge you and honor you for your journey and what you're accomplishing and what you've put together. I totally can feel your energy and also your wisdom of your maturity, your because you look really young. I'm sure that people tell you this, but you are so wise in your with your wisdom, with your knowledge, with what you're talking about, because it's all true, and bringing the person back to who it is, what it means to them, that is the journey. And so having something in a process, a system that helps guide people to that, I can see how powerful that work is.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Cornelia. And I appreciate you seeing me in my light and appreciating my journey because it hasn't been easy. It's been very difficult. I've walked through many nights of the souls, or dark nights of the souls, and I've experienced multiple rebirths. Um, and it has been a really tough learning experience, but I believe that there are certain people who go through these extreme adversities so that they can tap into an inner wisdom to share. And there are times in my life when I'm consulting with spirit and I'm like, why is this happening? Not in a self-pity way, but in a wanting enlightenment, and it's always come back to because I'm meant to share it. because I'm meant to help support people in shedding layers and viewing the world from a different perspective, and to learn how to empathize, because if there were more empathy in the world, I think the world would be a lot more kind. So yeah, I appreciate you
It's
understanding that it's
Yeah,
been
I
quite the
really
journey.
could listen to you forever because you articulate it all so well, and you have such a sacred process that you are very sharing with. You know, you're very open with it is what I want to say. And I think that's wonderful. I can see how you supporting people and all of the hardships and the challenges and the dark nights of the soul and the many deaths that I'm sure you've experienced,
Mhm,
that you are now in your mastery and able to support others who are ready to also step into their mastery.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
And I'm excited for it. And I think that, we're at a place in humanity as a whole where the shift is happening. And I'm sure that, people can feel that. And I think that, it's so amazing and relevant for people like you and myself to really come together and hold safe space so that we can have this type of conversation. So um, again, like, I just want to express my gratitude for the work that you do, because you're really holding the stage for people to speak their truth, and that's how we come to union, and that's how we find our tribe. So
Yes, thank you so much. It always fills me up to be able to also receive, the blessings from having guests like you, people like you,
mhm,
that are in appreciation of being seen and
mhm,
are ready to offer their gifts to the world. So let's tell the audience, your name is very interesting. It just reminds me. It just reminds me of the one, uh,
mhm,
oneness,
mhm.
the one. And so I love that. So let's tell the audience where they can look you up on social media, where they can connect with you and learn more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can visit my website. It's www.theonecoach.solutions, spelled phonetically. My social media link, or handle, is at the.one.coach, the number one, the number four, and the number three. And I did create a amazing self-awareness workbook that I'd love to share with your audience if anyone's interested. I did send the link over email, so if you want to share that on your website, that would be amazing. But I truly believe that self expansion starts with self awareness. So, for anyone who wants to travel towards the self mastery, start with self awareness. That's where it all begins. I've spent a lot of hours working on this. It's the sum of my whole life. It's a 61-page workbook, so it is quite in depth.
Wow.
But yeah, but I made it with love, and I'm ready to share it. So it'd be an honor for me to share it on your show for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. And when you
you're
see
welcome.
this video next week on social media, please take that link that you were talking about and share it underneath the video, because we've got audio and video. And if you could just put that link underneath it next week where people can have access to it, that would be great.
Wonderful. I will.
I'm definitely going to check it out myself. You are a blessing to behold. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, for blessing us with your beauty, with your wisdom, with your grace, with your gifts, and for being an inspiration in today's world. Thank you so much for helping to make the world a better place.
And thank you, Cornelia, for all that you do. I'm so grateful to be here. It's an honor to speak with you, and I look forward to reconnecting with you down the road.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. So,
Mhm.
everyone, we're going to take a break now and we're going to be right back. Oh my gosh, you guys. Welcome back to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. I am vibing so high with this incredible energy and the guests that we have for you today. My next guest, she right now is in the basement of a bookstore where she's doing a book signing, and she's in the basement. The book signing is happening upstairs, and she is downstairs. But I want to introduce you first to her. So when you see her background, you'll know where she is. Her name is Jen Maxfield. She's an Emmy Award winning reporter and anchor who joined NBC New York in 2013. Prior to joining the station, she worked for Eyewitness News, ABC 7 in New York City as a reporter and substitute anchor for 10 years. Maxfield started her broadcast career in 2000 in upstate New York before moving to New York City in 2002. She has reported live from thousands of news events over her 22-year career and estimates that she has interviewed more than 10,000 people. Maxfield is an adjunct professor at Columbia Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia University, a graduate of the class of 2000. She enjoys coming back to her alma mater to educate a new generation of journalists, which we really need. Her first book, After the Break is called her first book. The book is called After the Break. A reporter returns to 10 unforgettable news stories that was published on July 12th, 2022, and is available for pre-order now. Is that what you're doing with the book signing now?
Yes, so as you said, I'm here in the basement of the Savoy Bookstore and Cafe. I'm in Westerly, Rhode Island. I have a signing that's been going on for an hour upstairs, and I stepped away from all the customers for a few minutes to come speak with you, and I'm so appreciative of the opportunity. And as you said, I've gone live from thousands of news events, so coming downstairs to talk to you from the basement of a bookstore doesn't seem like too much of a stretch.
Wow, and you are quite an accomplished interviewer and been live and done so many wonderful things in your career. So it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I'm honored to be here.
Wow. So, what is it that you want us to know? So, the book is called Take a Break,
The book is called More After the Break.
or After the Break.
A reporter returns to 10 unforgettable news stories. And for your audience to understand, I'm a local news reporter, which means we get an assignment for a story in the morning and it airs on the news at night. And what winds up airing is usually about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes long. And over the 2 decades of covering thousands of stories, I felt that some stories deserved more than that. And there were people who stayed in my heart and in my head. And so when I set out to write this book, it was really fueled by genuine curiosity about what happened to the people at the center of these impactful news stories that I've covered through the years.
Yes. And so that is the book signing that is happening upstairs right now in the cafe that you're at, in the bookstore that you're at. And that's incredible. And I love the fact that you said that you wanted to be able to tell the story in a longer format. I know what it's like because I've also been on the news, interviewed on the news. And I remember going in, and at first I thought, we were going to have like 3 minutes or whatever. But then another segment opened up, and we ended up having 8 minutes, which was a real gift, right? To have 8 minutes on, NBC or CBS, whichever one I was at. I can't even really remember which one it was. So, what stories do you want people to know about? Like right now, what is it that you want people to know about?
So there are 10 stories that are featured in my book, and each one has a different theme and obviously a different person at the center of it. The one thread that ties all of these stories together is the triumph of the human spirit. I don't interview celebrities. The people I interview on the news did not ask to be in the spotlight, they were thrust into it due to circumstances beyond their control. And so, what I was really interested in looking at and exploring in this book is how people who've been tested by adversity and who've gone through so many things due to no fault of their own, how they've emerged all these years later triumphant, and how much they could teach all of us about resilience. So I know some people say that the news is really negative and it's about bad things that happen, and the benefit of hindsight, of going back, of having this context now, many years after these people were initially interviewed by me on the news, is that we really get a chance to explore not only how they've healed, but also the change that in many cases they've actually made happen, whether it's helping other people or whether it's passing a law to prevent what happened to them from happening to anybody else. And I just think that's incredibly inspiring it was for me to interview them, and I hope it is for readers to learn about them.
Yeah, and that is really why you're doing it, is really to inspire, right? To
Absolutely.
inspire, to inspire and really shine the light on the human spirit of what it is that we're capable of when we're in adverse situations and going through, challenging times in life, right?
That's exactly right. And I always say I'm with people sometimes on the best day of their life and the worst day of their life. And I'm here to share their stories with the broader community as a reporter. And I really don't take for granted the trust that people place in me when I'm sitting in their living room or looking them in the eye at a breaking news scene. I don't take that for granted that people are trusting me with their story. There's a great quote that says news is the first rough draft of history, and I'm writing that rough draft, and we're doing the best we can to get an accurate story on the air. But I also recognize that I am with people during these days, and I do think that there's something to be said for that too, about really taking a closer look at the relationship between the reporter and the subject, and how it's not just a job, it's not transactional. We're actually with people during these really impactful times in their lives, and they impact us too.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Have you thought about doing a podcast?
I actually did just start a podcast, which is also called More After the Break, because I suspect that if I'm still curious and interested in speaking with people long after their names have been in the headlines, I suspect that listeners and viewers and readers are interested too. So, yes, obviously, having done 10,000 interviews, more than that probably, over the last 22 years, there are plenty of stories that I would love to go back to and continue investigating beyond the 10 that are featured in my book.
I mean, I just feel like you still need to be, on spotlight. You still need to be in your having your own show, interviewing people in a studio or something like that, but more to the space that you really want to have. Is that part of your vision, or is this what do you want to do with your career next, aside from the book that you're doing and your podcast? What is it the next thing that you're doing with your career now?
So, as you mentioned, I wrote the book and I have the podcast. I am still working for NBC in New York. I am a reporter and anchor for the NBC station in New York City, and we cover the three states that surround New York City: New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And I'm also an adjunct professor at the Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. And part of what really inspires me to talk about the book and just to talk about reporting generally is to inspire young journalists and people who are thinking about going into the profession, and talk to them about what I've learned through my decades in the news van, and also just letting people know that it's okay to take your whole self to work and to put some of your heart into the stories, and really putting that humanism into journalism.
So what makes a good journalist?
I think that being a good journalist means being a good storyteller. I always say for example, the second chapter is about covering hurricanes. I cover Hurricane Katrina in Mississippi. I covered Hurricane Sandy in Staten Island, New York. And when I go out and I cover a hurricane, I could list many facts to the viewers about wind speeds and storm surge and how many people don't have power. But if I asked you about that a day or a week or a month later, you probably wouldn't remember that. But if I take you inside someone's home and introduce you to a person and a family and tell you about what's been washed away and when their home was built and how they lost it, and tell you about how they rescued their pets, that's something that you will remember for long after. And that hopefully will inspire people to want to help, whether it's donating to GoFundMe or volunteering to go down and help with the cleanup after the storm. And so I think that through the years, and really the thing that inspired me to write the book was that feeling of what's really happening, and what does make a good journalist, getting back to your question, is empathy and understanding and being a good listener, and understanding that the way we make an impact on the world through our stories and through sharing all this with the community is by having empathy and introducing you to someone else in your community who's going through something, good or bad.
Yeah, very, very good. What happened for you in your life that got you started in this direction? How did that all line up for you?
So I actually was pre-med in college. I was always very into sports, and I played a lot of sports as a kid. I still run a lot to this day. And I wanted to be a sports medicine physician. But I always wrote for the high school newspaper. I wrote for my college newspaper at Columbia. I just didn't see it as a career path because I didn't know anyone who was a reporter. And it wasn't until I happened to see an ad for an internship at CNN at the United Nations my junior year at Columbia. And I thought, oh, I don't have class on Fridays. I could go to the UN, and that would be really interesting. And I worked with a correspondent named Gary Tuckman, who is still on CNN to this day. And this was back in 1997 when I met him. But he was so wonderful and such a compassionate person, and also let me come out to news conferences and write the first draft of his CNN radio stories. And it was getting not only the exposure to the news business, but also working with someone who seemed to really care about what he was doing that inspired me to change my major to political science and then go to Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. And the way it works typically in local news, and certainly the way it worked for me, is it's sort of like minor league baseball. You start working in a smaller market and then work your way up. So I started out in market number 154, Binghamton, New York. That was back in 2000. And then I went to the ABC station in Syracuse, New York, and then currently the last 20 years in New York City, first for ABC and now for NBC.
Wow, that's quite a path. And all it seemed like it all just lined up for you perfectly and you just went with it and it all the doors opened. So that's an inspiring story right there.
Although I should add, in the interest of full disclosure, that when it didn't really always line up perfectly, and
Oh,
I think it's important to talk about this so that people who are just starting out or looking to start a new career know that it's okay if things don't always go your way in the beginning. Back in 2000, there was no YouTube, so I had to actually mail out VHS tapes with my resume reel on them. And so you can imagine making 65 copies of the same resume reel and then mailing them out. It was a big process. It cost a lot of money, especially for a grad student. And I sent out those 65 tapes to markets all across the country. And I waited and I waited and I waited for an email and I waited for a phone call. And not a single news director contacted me, not one. So
wow.
you can imagine how dispiriting that was and how dejected I felt. And so the only reason I got that job in Binghamton, New York is because despite the fact that that news director had not called me back, I decided to get in my car and drive to upstate New York and just call news directors once I was already there and say, "Hi, I'm Jen Maxfield. I happen to be in town. Might you have 5 minutes to meet with me?" And that was how I eventually got the job. But it definitely did not come naturally or easily to get that first job. And I love talking about that because I think that people should know that it's okay if something's hard and don't give up.
So it sounds like, the fact that you were waiting and waiting and waiting, all the because your dream could have been lost if you would have given up. But what you did is you really wanted that and you were like that tenacity and that I'm going to do this. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to ask for 5 minutes. That takes a lot of inner confidence, even though, and courage as well to be able to do that and knock on the door, even after you've been haven't received any replies. You could have been the woe is me person, saying, you've put all this money in, nobody's calling you back, nobody's listening to you, the universe really doesn't want you, and all the things, right? All the things you could have said, all those things, but you didn't.
I have always felt that what's the worst thing that can happen, right? I mean, somebody says no. He said, what if he had said, no, I won't meet with you for 5 minutes? Okay, I'll call the next person and the next person after that. And I don't know, it probably is some part of my nature that's very stubborn, but also resilient, where I don't view it as a personal insult. If somebody doesn't want me for a job or an interview, I understand that there are different factors at play and I don't put myself at the center of it. And especially now, having covered news for all these years, I am very accepting when people say that they're not interested in doing an interview, and I understand that that's sometimes people's choice. But yes, it does help to build up that thick skin and not allow external forces and external decisions to dictate how we pursue our goals.
And you took ownership and you went after it. You really you went after it. So I'm just curious, I know this is not something that we talk about on the news, but what's your astrological sign? I'm just curious because you mentioned,
Oh,
are
yes.
you
So
Taurus? Are you a Taurus?
how did you know? Is it because
Are
I
you?
alluded to my stubbornness? Yes, I am a Taurus, and I am very stubborn. So that bull that
That's
we all know,
it.
the Taurus, that definitely suits me very well.
Well, there's that. Asking that is something that I ask a lot of people just because I like astrology and I'm interested in it and I use it in my life, but also intuitively, the fact that I said Taurus, and then I just get surprised as anyone else when they say, "Yeah, I am," because it's amazing what happens. But that serves you well. That bull, that stubbornness, you didn't give up on your dream. So this is important for people to hear, that you didn't give up on your dream, and you went after it. And you didn't let all of the naysayers and all the people that didn't open the door for you stop you from stepping into the life that you wanted to live for yourself and create. So I have a question for you. What's a day like for you? What's an everyday, like, day in the life look like for you?
Sure. So I always say there's no such thing as a typical day in news, but to give you a general overview, if I'm reporting, I typically send in some story ideas to our managers, and then there are also other things that we might call must cover. So it might be a big news conference, it might be a breaking news story, it could be something like an election where you know in advance that's something you're going to be covering that day. And I go out with a photographer. We drive in the news van together and we would go to the story. So I don't report from home. I don't report from home from my computer. I don't quote other people's tweets. I don't report on the phone. I report in person, which has been a gift over all of these years because I've had the opportunity to meet people in person, go to their communities, sit inside their homes and businesses. It's been incredible. So, in any case, we go out to the scene of the story. I do the interviews, and the photographer will shoot the interviews, and then I will write the news script based on the research and the interviews I've done. The photographer edits it, and we get all of that done by 5 or 6 p.m. when we do a live shot from the scene and we broadcast live both what we've shot earlier in the day and also something that we're actually broadcasting live from whatever community we're in. And most times, that's it. We don't typically go back to the same story day in and day out, which is part of what inspired me to write my book. Was sometimes we'd leave the scene or leave a family and I'd think, I'm not really ready to leave here.
Mm.
I want to know what happens next. But we cover 20 million people in the New York City news market. So you can imagine the pace of news is relentless. And that's what inspired me to write the book. But yes, that's how most days go. And you start a story in the morning, sometimes it gets changed due to breaking news, it airs that night, and the next day you start anew.
So you have to be really flexible.
Yes.
You have to be really flexible, right? Because at any point in time, something's going to change and you have to be able to roll with it as well and always show up on spot with whatever is being presented to you.
That's exactly right. And you can't get too attached to any particular story because you could start a story at 9 in the morning and get all the interviews and have a great idea for how you want to write it. And then by noon, something happened and you're rushing off to the next one. So, and the option of saying, well, I'm already working on this story, that does not exist. And I write about in the book, there's something that I like to call a reporter's version of Murphy's Law, which is the day you wear a new pair of shoes is the day you get sent to the mud spill or the flood. And the day that you have concert tickets that night is the day that you have a 6 o'clock live shot in some far flung location that's going to make you late. So that's just, you have to be flexible and recognize that it's not a job for someone who craves routine.
Right, right. Yeah, you definitely. And after a while you get really good at being able to roll with it. And you're also able to use that in other areas of your life as well. I'm sure in your personal life too, not being attached to how you think things should be. And I know you're married and you have 3 dogs. Did I see that correctly? 3 dogs?
Well, actually, I have one dog and
Yeah.
3 children.
Oh,
So
one dog and 3 children. Okay, I have the three right.
I'm so glad that you brought that up about my family, because I think that's very true. The fact that I am accustomed to not having a routine at work, I hope makes me a better mom and allows me to be there for my kids in a way where if things go a little off course or something happens that we didn't expect, that I can roll with it and really just enjoy my time with my kids and my husband and my dog.
And your dog. So I just, it's such an honor that you came to this show here today. Such an accomplished woman out there in the world that is sharing all this incredible wisdom, the news, and everything that you're doing to, help people to tell their stories. Like you said, for journalists to be really good, they have to be a good storyteller. And your life is busy. You're a mom, you are a career woman, and you wrote a book. And so what do you want to leave the audience with today?
I just hope that people have gotten some additional perspective about what it's like to be on the news. Everyone's consuming some form of news, whether you're watching it on TV or clicking on stories on your Twitter feed. And I think we're getting to a point where sometimes people are just seeking out news outlets that confirm what they already think. And I'm trying to bring it back to basics and write a book about people and about how people have inspired me and what it's been like to be with people on the best and worst days of their lives. And I really hope that people enjoy reading the book as much as I enjoyed writing it, and that they feel that same sense of hope and optimism that I did returning to these families after all of these years. So I'm so honored to have been on your show, and I really thank you for your interest in the project.
Oh my gosh. So let's tell the audience where they can purchase the book, because right now it's available for pre-order, or can people get it online?
Oh, so you can get the book everywhere now because
Oh, good.
it came out several weeks ago, and you can go onto my website, jenmaxfield.com, and that gives you some more information about the book and also a lot of links where you can buy it. And of course, you can visit your local bookstore, and you also can find the ebook online. And I recorded my own audiobook. I narrated 7 hours and 45 minutes of my book, and that's available as well.
Wow, what a labor of love. I think that's it's wonderful how you've put it all together and how you're offering it all up for inspiration. And like you said, a greater perspective of how the human spirit can triumph through all of the challenges that we face sometimes. And then at the same time, while still living your life and doing all the things that you're doing.
Yes, well, like I said, I appreciate the time, and when I get off with you, I'll be heading back upstairs
To
to the book
sell
room
to
to
sell
sell
many,
some
many
more
books.
books.
To sell many books. Let's get your social media handles one more time.
Sure. So I'm Jen Maxfield News on Instagram, and you can also find me on Facebook and Twitter. Just look up Jen Maxfield. I'll come right up.
Jen Maxfield, a wonderful, wonderful woman. It's so great to have you on the show today. Many blessings to you, and may you sell many books and inspire many people. Thank you
Oh,
for coming on.
and thank you so much, and thank you for all your listeners and viewers.
Thank you. Everyone, we're going to close this show, and then we're going to open up another show of another round of Stories of Hope here at the 1 o'clock hour. We're going to see you here in a little bit. We're going to close this one out, and we'll see you here on the next hour. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in. We'll see you again next time. Take care. You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.